Hey there, this is Malorian. Oh, now we're live. Okay, hey there, this is Malorian, and this is going to be a Paintisode that I'm doing live because honestly, today's super busy and I won't have time to wait to change things up. And actually, today is going to be kind of more of a fix-isode. So before I get into that, a Paintisode is the type of thing where you're not supposed to be really watching, although this is a live event, so I guess you kind of would be. But the idea is that I'm going to be painting and talking about things. You'll be probably listening to this while you paint things too, and it's really just supposed to be giving you something to listen to while you paint your models. So that's really that. But for me, this is going to be a fix-isode. There's a fix-isode because my son, the little deer he is, played with my army, and at first was playing pretty nice, so I let him play, and I walked away, and then when he was done and brought it back, it was all like smashed inside, and yeah, now I'm going to go and try and fix this. So there are some viewers here. You can go and put up comments. I'll be watching those, and I can be answering those as we go, but otherwise, I'm going to have to be gluing these guys back together and touching them up for wherever all the chips are, because of course this army is like 100% metal. So, and as I say that, I realize I have not told you what army it is. This is going to be a War Machine model or army that's called the Minions, and you can do an army that's pretty much all alligators. So that's pretty cool. They're my pink army, so let me actually find an actual alligator. Yay, this guy's not broken. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty cool scheme, going pink and black, and it's different, right? And unfortunately, there's lots of chips on them, and that's what I'll have to work on now, is just trying to touch these guys up. I'm trying to actually think now what's going to be the best way to fix these guys and touch them up. I don't want to do it on a model-per-model basis, so I probably just want to maybe I'll do two at a time or something. That probably makes sense. But otherwise, I do have a lot of other painting to be done, but if you guys haven't noticed, I got lots of games this week. In fact, I just got home and just scarfed down some food because I just got back from doing my Dwarf versus Vampire Counts game. And yeah, that one's going to be kind of a non-battle report. You guys will kind of see when I get to it. But it will really stress the idea of why I think there should be zones and scenario real pressure to have to go to the middle. That's not the brush I want. Whoa, is that my detail brush already? Holy crow. This thing's like brand new and it's already all frayed and crap. But yeah, it was nice to pull out my dwarves. Oh. We got a comment here from SoCal Gaming. So let's talk about that instead, because then I won't be spoiling the battle report. And he says, got any tips for unit fillers? And first of all, this is a thing where, let me just touch on the first part of it, where some people really don't like unit fillers. The reason why they don't like unit fillers, as either using them or going against them, is just the idea sometimes of cost. You know, you'll see a guy who has a unit of zombies and they are all just like a hand sticking out of the ground. Like basically instead of making one model, they just snipped up all the parts and it's just like these heads sticking out of the ground in the hand, or maybe it's like a little grave guard or grave tombstone type thing. So some people don't like that. Some people as well. I mean, if you have a really nice unit filler, some people think that, oh, you know, instead of buying the actual models, you just want to make this a unit filler, and that's not really fair. You know, why did I spend all this money when you did this? But the real truth is that a lot of unit fillers are ones that take a lot of time. They're ones where maybe somebody made even like something intricate as far as, I mean, there's easy ones, right? If you go out, and probably one of the easiest ones to do is they have the one terrain piece where it's basically the graveyard. And this thing is just a terrain set of small little bits of walls and statues and crypts, and those things on their own are very easy to just paint up as single little pieces, and all of a sudden, oh, this wall takes up this 5 or 6 guys here. This crypt can now take up this big block here of 20 guys, and it's a really easy thing of doing this and putting it in. So that's one way of doing it, and of course you want it to be something that's based around your theme. I mean, if your theme is, let's say it's ogres, and it's a snow theme, so you got snow all over the base, and then you have a little unit filler, and it's a volcano with a volcano base. Like, of course, you want it to kind of fit. And to me, the unit fillers that really are the best are the ones where they're not just a piece of terrain, they're not just a big rock or something like that. It's something where it's actually like more of a diorama. So if you would have seen this piece on its own, it's its own little entertainment piece. For example, I've seen things where there's a fight broken out between some night goblins. So in their big, huge block of 100, somewhere in there, they will have it so that there are these night goblins fighting, and that's taking up some space in the center. Or maybe it's something, too, where guys in the center, they're working on a weaponsmith, or the choices are pretty much unlimited. There's so many different things you can be doing for it. I guess the real tips that I want to get across is, first step, look at your local tournaments and understand what are their feelings on unit fillers. Some don't care. Some will actually put a restriction so that you can only have a maximum of 25 models worth of unit fillers in there. And so really, before you take all that time and effort to try and, wow, this guy's really chipped up on his tail, to try and put that together, just make sure what's actually allowed in the tournament before it's too late. Then probably the next thing to do is, like I said, to really look at the theme. You know, and maybe you don't really have a theme to your army, right? Maybe you are just plain old dark elves, and it's not like you have any real theme to it. It's not like you made them converted to be pirates or anything else like that. Well, try and then look to the fluff, right? What would dark elves be doing? You know, maybe there'll be some slaves in there, and they're torturing them. You know, they got some captured high elves or something like this. You know, work that into it. One of the ones I've seen is for Corsairs, is you have the Corsairs who, because they're kind of, you know, pirates and all the rest of it for them, they are working on the ships, and maybe they're carrying some of those stuff with them, right? So maybe the center guys could be carrying a rowboat, or, you know, something like that that really falls back to, in the book, where what they really come from. Now, unfortunately, with all these touch-ups I'm doing, I'm going to almost have to re-wash them as well. It's too bad. But yeah, that's really for the unit fillers there. And yeah, just enjoy it. I mean, some of these things too, I've seen as well where people use just monsters, right? Once Bitten did that for a while, where his unit fillers were just various monsters that he put into his beastmen. All of a sudden, when you're getting into stuff like that, it's a little bit of WYSIWYG issues, right? Some people could be saying, well, come on, why is there a Cygor or whatever in the middle of your unit? That doesn't make any sense. And so, again, it's just making sure people are okay with it. But probably one of the things that could really work out to your advantage no matter what is if you do those terrain unit fillers, even if it's kind of more of a diorama, making it so it's something that could be used either as a unit filler or as a piece of terrain. So, for example, one of the pieces of terrain that not everybody always have is the weirding well. And so maybe for one of your unit fillers, it could actually be a well, and people are going to it and trying to get, you know, water from it, blah, blah, blah. So that could be something. We have Crystal Conqueror saying, ooh, good, at least this video isn't false advertising. Yeah. No, this one is, maybe it should be false advertising. All of a sudden, I'm just going to change things up, and it's not a Paintisode. I was breaking into a battle report, or I'm selling something, you know. Buy Crush Pop. Yeah, I don't know. But I had to go with the pink pop. I'm working on pink models. You gotta have pink pop. But yeah, just with that comment there, um, I know that did kind of piss people off for what I was kind of doing there, but overall, I think more people enjoyed it or uh, got something from it than got pissed off from it. So overall, I think it was good. Um, Clearly, there's a warning there that I need to not push it too far. And, it's one thing to make titles and stuff interesting, and it's another just to be an internet troll. One of the problems with that is that, man, am I such a troll. Like, most of you guys, the vast, vast, vast majority of you guys won't know this, but when it comes to Facebook, I am an absolute troll, absolutely. And I just can't help myself sometimes where somebody puts on a vague post or goes on a rant on whatever little thing they have going, and I just can't help myself. Recently, my brother-in-law did this long rant on Facebook talking about how, oh, you should make jokes about, rape and blah, 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 blah. So, of course, at the end, I had to make a joke about rape. And yeah, they expect it now. It's just Malorian the troll. This guy is pretty cool. It's this big kind of like octopus thing. It's on the land, so that's kind of weird. I don't know how this thing's kind of walking on land, but it's kind of a pretty cool model. Nothing's broken, but again, just chips all over the place. And again, I can now see there's like 10 of you guys. Go ahead. I mean, post up whatever you guys want me to talk about. Otherwise, for those of you guys joining late, I am more doing a fix-a-sode because my son borrowed my stuff. And yeah, when he gave it back to me, I had all these guys in one of the smaller GW cases, and the first tip that something was wrong was that the case was propped open. It was here, it was just kind of like didn't really close right. So it's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And then I open it up, and I can see models are just jammed in there. Models are broken. There's not that many models broken. I think 2 or 3, but again, because they're all metal models, that means they're all going to have varying degrees of chips. Like here's one where it's basically just like this big alligator wrestler guy, and he's just snapped right in half and has 500,000 chips on him. So, thanks, son. Guess who's getting circumcised? No. But yeah, I still have more games coming up. Like I said, I am going to have to still do the battle report for the Dwarves. I hope I have enough glue to get through this. The Dwarves versus Vampire game I just finished. Then tomorrow is going to be War Machine, and then after that I'm going to be having my 8,000 point game finally of Orcs versus High Elves. So that should be pretty interesting. After that, one of my friends actually wants to start getting into tournaments, and so I'm actually going to go over to his place so that we can build a tournament list. I'm not really sure which army it's going to be for on his side, because he does own quite a few armies. I'm guessing it's going to be either Ogres or Warriors of Chaos, but we'll see. Let's see how well. All good. Sometimes when these things break in half like this, you can't really get them to line up right, and it means you have to do a lot more touch-ups, but this one's pretty good. Here's the real bane of metal models, is whenever you have spikes, because these spikes always chip. So I'm going to let that guy kind of cure. Maybe at the same time I should fix one of the other models, which is one of these little, it's called a croak hunter. So it's basically like this frog covered with little turtle shells for armor, and has his poison spear and stuff. But yeah, and then as well, what happens after this Paintisode is I'll be getting together with some of the other guys from the campaign. So of course I have the campaign that's going on right now, and the next thing that's going to be coming up is kind of a team game, but it's not something where you're all playing at the same time. It's more that you break into teams, and then there's going to be a siege, there's going to be a watchtower, and there's going to be an underground battle. And you guys are all kind of playing that. So I, I am kind of lazy. I didn't really read all the rules to see how everything interacts, but one of the ones I remember is that the watchtower, whoever wins the watchtower can come over to help the siege and reserves. So it's neat to have that where, first of all, you're all together and battling each other. Chris the Conqueror just saying, ha ha, mocking me, I'm sure. But it looks like I'm going to be doing, I was hoping for either the siege or the underground battle. However, my team is, I'm going to be with Kieran Dunleavy, who's doing Skaven, and I'm also with a Lizardman guy. And Skaven don't really like either being in buildings or attacking buildings. Attacking buildings can be okay because maybe you can dreaded 13th them or something, but the idea of charging in and beating them through combat is pretty tough. So he's taking the underground battle. It really came down to either the siege or the watchtower, and I just really offered up to Lizardman saying, hey, which one do you want? And he said he wanted to go for the siege because he's never done a siege before. So, all right, my orcs will be doing another watchtower. So hopefully we'll see who I'm facing. That Lizardman player that I had the last watchtower against, here's the black paint, stupid. He'll be on the other side, so who knows? Maybe I'll have a rematch against him. It'd be good to get, that was a nice close game, so it'd be nice to have a rematch for that one. But there's, I could be up against the Warriors of Chaos guy, and, having a bunch of, like, Khorne warriors with halberds or whatever in a watchtower, that could be kind of difficult to deal with, but I think overall, I would be okay. Either I can send in the savages. No, probably the best thing to do is if I took a BSB with like a flaming banner, and then he could join the savages. So the BSB, who would be then pretty weak, would not have to go into the building, but then all the savages would have flaming attacks, so they get re-rolls to wound when attacking the building. So those Khorne warriors would do a hell of a lot of wounds to me, but I would devastate them in return. So maybe that'll be the way to go. Here we have Chris the Conqueror saying, oh my god, I did not expect the circumcised joke. Lol, anyway, you should do why Wood Elf players suck for all the other armies, though. Like, point out the flaws and the strategies and ideals of other armies. That would be cool and good strategy tips for both players and adversaries of them. I mean, if people want that, I guess I could be doing that. I already had some requests from that already from when I did the last videos. Like I kind of stated before, though, it might be good if I just, not go straight into pissing everybody off. Plus, as well, I was wanting to do a little bit more. Now that I have a better setup for being able to do the video where I can actually show movements for what I actually mean for some of these tactics, there's a few things I wanted to come back to kind of show. But, hey, yeah, like I said, if people want me to be covering that, I can certainly be doing that. A lot of the other armies, though, aren't as extreme as Wood Elves. I mean, Wood Elves really only take part in a really small part of the game for the most part, so that was a very easy one to do. Some other ones you could kind of talk about, but they're just not in that same level. I think one of the only ones that'd be close to that would be, say, like the Tomb Kings, because they're really one where, for the most part, their combat is fairly weak. They're not as bad off as Wood Elves, but they're no orcs or Warriors of Chaos or anything like that. But I mean, they usually don't do a lot with movement because they don't have. Well, maybe I should be saving that one. Maybe I should be doing one of why Tomb King players suck, and then I can piss off more people. Sounds like good times. Let's do that pink guy first. Something else I want to talk about too, because if you're wondering what all these boxes are behind me, we here in Alberta did a huge order for the frontline gaming mats, and I've kind of showed those in some of my battle reports, and I always get a question or a statement saying, "Oh wow, look, it's the frontline gaming mats, and what do you think of them?" And I always say the same thing. They're awesome. They're not cheap, which is why it was really good to do this group purchase. I think we got something like over 100 mats all in one go, but this was a large area. I mean, it was really great. The guy who put this together, what a fantastic idea, because these things are just such a great tool. And honestly, if it wasn't for him arranging this, it just wouldn't have happened, right? People wouldn't think like, hey, if we get 4 cities together and all the people who want mats order them together, we can get like 30% off, right? Like, it just, most people just don't think like that. They'll just go online, try and find what good deal they can find for themselves, and that's really it. So it was really good that he was able to arrange that. I picked up 4 mats. I wish I would have picked up more because, of course, I run those tournaments, and with GW not making their own mats anymore, I'm kind of needing to find a replacement, and these guys are they're just honestly great. For those who don't know what I'm talking about for frontline gaming mats, really the best way to describe them is if you think of a mouse pad. It's really nice and smooth and soft, and it looks really nice. And the main thing is, I mean, your models are going to slide on it perfectly, and it's just not really going to be an issue for stretching or anything like that. One negative I did find from getting all the mats I do have is they're not perfectly 4 feet across. I really did kind of expect that from that price range, that you would get that, having the perfect 4 feet on the millimeter even. But unfortunately, no such luck. Let's see, these guys I don't need to really touch up because they're not even painted. Caliban the voodoo alligator, yeah, I guess we better do him. But yeah, I mean, what can I say? Those frontline gaming mats, absolutely go for those. If you yourself don't have mats, that's the one I go for now. I mean, before the GW one, that was like $35. That was just a hell of a really good deal for something you can just throw down and it just pretty much looks perfect right out of the box, right? You just kind of use it. But now that's not really an option, and I'd say this is really the next best thing. I mean, you have other things you can do. I'm not really. There's what is those called, like the Zuzu, whatever mats. There are these rubberized things that you get, and you have to paint yourself, and they always warp, and I'm really not a fan of those. One of the guys here who runs a tournament got a bunch of them, and at first, when I first saw the first couple, I was like, oh, okay, that looks pretty cool. You know, that might be actually a really good deal. But then when I realized that that guy had painted the mats and they didn't come like that, all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, maybe that's not so great anymore. So, but unfortunately, because of the group that did that was War Machine, that means all those mats I have will be 4x4. I still have the 4x6 or 6x4 that the guy left here, but he's the guy I'm playing in the 8,000 point game, so I'm guessing he's going to be stealing it back. Oh, so many touch-ups. I don't even know what I was thinking giving this to my son. Well, to be fair, I didn't. I gave it to my daughter, and my daughter's always careful with things, but usually in the past, I'll let them play with plastic models because plastic models don't really chip. You know, the plastic models are going to be just fine. But these metal guys, one thing that's kind of unfortunate for these guys here too is they have these Gatormen, which look awesome, and I think they're really cool, but they're coming out with a new kit for them, and they're plastic. So it's like, oh wow, that's awesome. But the thing they did is made them look completely different, and that's something we're kind of more used to GW, right? Where they come out with the new geez, anything, executioners, they come out with the new witch elves, or the new whatever, and they look significantly different compared to the old ones. And really, you're almost stuck in this spot where if you put them together, it'll be dead obvious, right? People will see that they don't really line up right, and it just kind of looks kind of funny. Um, so you're kind of forced to say, do I replace all my old models, or just say screw it and mix it? It's one of those tough things here. Again, I haven't seen any updates or the comments here for a while, so feel free to throw those in. Oh man. Yeah, just jam in like 3 models at the same time. I'm sure that's going to be fine. God. This guy here, here's the one thing where metal models don't matter if they chip, is if they already have lots of metal on them. So like this guy here, he just has metal stuff all over the place. And if you look close, you can kind of tell where the chips are because of where it's extra shiny. But for the most part, it just doesn't matter, right? Looking at it from across the table, chip metal, whatever, just looks like chipped metal, and it's not a big deal as opposed to the pink parts that got chipped, and those definitely will need to be touched up. One of the things I was getting requests for this last week is I was getting to see more people and see my old gaming friends and stuff like that, is people saying that they want me to bring back my fantasy tournament. So the one I was running before is the Battle of the Beasts. That's the one where it really is just like the Brawler Bash. 3,000 points. You got the Grand Army thing going, and you can score it just as a regular. Whatever victory points you get, those are victory points you keep. The big difference between me and Brawler Bash is mine is better. No, but the big thing there is that your lords can be on a monster from any book, so you can be doing all these crazy things like put your Orc War Boss on a Manticore or whatever, right? There's so many different options, and unfortunately, when people convert up models for those, they're only really good for that tournament. So sometimes I'll feel bad when I see that somebody converted up like a Slan riding on a dragon or something like this. It's like, oh, I know that unless they rip up that model, they're not going to be able to use it for anything else. But actually, a lot of the comments I was getting here was just saying that they actually enjoyed that. It was like once a year they could do one crazy conversion, and it was something they're actually really looking forward to. So even though they might just get to use it the one time, well, hell, I mean, if they're coming back from year to year, they could always save the same model, and even if they aren't, they could always rip it off, right? It's not really that tough to say, okay, I got a Slan on a dragon, now I got a Slan, and I got a dragon. And you might have a little bit of touch-ups like I'm doing now, but it's really not that bad. So, but I don't know. Right now, the current tournament scene is looking a little bit wonky and kind of fragile. It's probably a better word for. Sorry, excuse me. What you really have is there's 3 main tournaments here, and I mean there's lots of other tournaments, but honestly, based on scale, there's really only 3 good-sized tournaments. And the one guy, he's super dedicated. There's no chance. That's the Warhammered one. I really see no chance of that disappearing. The guy just really loves the hobby and everything about it. And I'm sure, like, even times when he's lost money on his tournaments, he just kind of goes like, okay, well, I'll change this up for next time, and it's not that big of a deal. There's another one where the guy used to actually be working for GW, and the problem is that now he doesn't really play the GW games anymore. So it's always a question of, how long is it going to go before he just loses interest? Because as a TO, I mean, normally if you're a tournament organizer, that means you're already somebody who likes giving back to the community. So, I mean, even if you don't play the game, you'll like running the tournaments just as a way to give back. I mean, even when I wasn't playing 40K, I was still running some of the charity 40K tournaments around here, just to help things out and do my part. But especially when you're not playing the game and haven't played it for quite a long while, at some point, well, here's the worst thing. People start to complain because you make up different rules based on how you think the game's going to be played, and then people complain like, oh, why did you put a restriction on this? Why did you score it like this? It's like you don't even play the game, and it's because they don't. And at some point they're just going to say, that's it. You know what? I like giving back, but it's not worth all the complaints, and they're done. And that's really sad because this is a really good thing and a person that want to support, but it's almost kind of like the rotation of how things go, right? The person is first there, really trying to give a lot. Eventually they get out of the hobby, and in the end, they just kind of have to scale back all the little support groups that they're doing for it. So anyway, there's one like that. It's a long way of me saying that one's in danger for that tournament. There's another one where they have some really big plans, but unfortunately their last tournament was kind of a big flop. They did not get the people they were expecting, and they took a big loss, which really hurts because the next tournament they were going to do was going to take a good amount of capital that they're going to be putting in. And now it's kind of at the point where, well, if they want to do it, they have to take out a loan. And it's one thing to be wanting to give back, and another thing to say, you know what, I'm willing to put my credit score on the line to try and run these sorts of events. So we'll have to kind of see what happens there, whether they can do some fundraising or what. I like these guys too. These guys I'm touching up now are these ironback spitters, and they're basically like these big angry turtles that just spit on people. So they're not super strong in combat, but they got a little bit of a range gain to them, and they just look fun. So anyway, getting back to that, one of the things that could definitely pull me back into doing tournaments is if one of these big guys was to fall away, because all of a sudden there's a gap, and then all of a sudden the community really needs somebody to step up, because if you want a hobby to fall apart, it's going to start off when people stop supporting the community of it, because all of a sudden if people aren't coming together to play these tournaments, they're playing less, they're meeting fewer people, so as gaming groups fracture apart, they don't know who else to pull in to have their games with. So that could be something really where I want to go in to be helping people out. I'm going to run out of room on my table here. Oh. These guys are kind of fun. They always joke in 40K about how they're going to be bringing about the fishmen, and they kind of have them here. They call them these bog trogs. You're not going to be able to see them very well, but they came out with another unit of them, which are called the shamblers, which are just like a zombie unit of them. So that'd be kind of cool if they did that. They actually used to do that for fantasy, because you would have your dogs of war, and with the dogs of war, you could be taking this undead unit, and it was really cool because they had all these other models for the different races. So I mean, there's an undead orc and all this different stuff, and normally you just get them as a kit and you just kind of mix them up, but they're cool because if I remember correctly, every single time they kill somebody, they get to add to their unit. So it's one of these things where you wanted to get them in to something weak and easy, and then they just get big forever type thing. But why not have stuff like that anymore, right? Why not have the same? It could be exactly the same type of unit, but just for some small little difference. So, for example, you could be having, these are your trolls, and these are your undead trolls. Or, that one might be not a good example because they actually do have river trolls and stuff like that. But let's go to Empire, and let's say all of a sudden you have the opportunity to be taking a unit of zombies, where normally zombies are bad, but hey, you know, if you have these zombies that are going to come and fight for you, you can be pretty sure that the general is probably going to bring them on board. So I don't know, or even just maybe that's not the way to go, but just the way of bringing back dogs of war. And that's something where I've had people bring up that I'm kind of contradicting myself, because when it comes to ninth, one of the biggest things I don't want to see in ninth is I don't want to see allies, not especially done like in 40K, where it's like, oh yeah, let's pull over and mix whatever I want, and it gets ridiculous. However, at the same time, I really like the dogs of war. And the reason why I like the Dogs of War was two reasons. One, it kind of helped fill in the major gaps. So let's say if you're Wood Elves and you have no cannon, so you can't really deal with monsters well. Well, they had these galloping guns. This unit here, where these guys were basically a cannon with a horse attached, and they would gallop around, and then whenever you want to shoot, they'd shoot. And on another turn, do I need to reposition? Okay, they gallop over here. So what it really did for the game was help even the playing field. So it wasn't so much of a thing where, oh, okay, it's what's a good example? It is going to be vampires versus orcs and goblins or whatever. It's like, oh, it's basically game over if they have the right pieces. What it more is like, okay, well, if I have an army like vampire counts that has no shooting, okay, I can take in these Dogs of War crossbowmen or those galloping guns and stuff like that. And it really helped even those things up. And you can make the argument that going to ninth, if people were able to take these allies from anywhere, oh, it's just the same thing. It just balances the playing field. But that's not the way it's going to be at all, right? It's not that you're going to be adding a little bit of shooting or something like that. You're going to be adding in organ guns. You're going to be adding in hell cannons. You're going to be adding in the demon prince. And it's really not that subtle balancing. It's just taking the best of everything and making it more extreme. The other part of it, too, is that these units were kind of more expensive, and it's to the point where you could take it, but you're paying the points for it. So, for example, one of the really cool things they had were, at the time, it was really cool, where it was these special pikemen, where they fought in 3 ranks or whatever. And now it's like, oh, yeah, fighting in 3 ranks, that's nothing. But back then, when there wasn't step up and all this other stuff, that was a big deal. You know, there wasn't many multiple attacks, and it was more like, wow, if you charge these guys in the front, you're in a lot of trouble. But you paid some good points if you wanted to take those guys, and you had to make some serious decisions of what you really wanted to do. As I remember it too, if you took a pure Dogs of War army, you actually had like this paymaster that was your general. And I seem to remember if the paymaster died, then the units would just start like to disperse, like they just don't care anymore. Maybe it was everybody takes a panic test. I can't remember, but it was just a really cool, fluffy idea that was somewhat competitive in ways you could be using it, but it wasn't over the top. So we'll see which way they go, but part of that as well is still getting so concerned that there still are no rumors of anything coming up. I saw the one post talking about how there's more rumors again about Bretonnians coming, but still there's nothing solid. There's no pictures, there's no dates, there's no teaser trailer from GW. So where I'm starting to get to the point here where I'm getting a little bit worried, you know, with there's a new CEO and all this stuff, and I want to see something coming with that, right? I want to see what's going to be the new direction for it. And if nothing happens, well, that's kind of a direction of nothing. Well, this guy's a little bit harder to check out. This is actually like a zombie alligator. He's actually one of the leaders, but he was basically died and brought back to life, and so he has so many different bones and stuff sticking out of him. It's actually hard to tell if there's any chips. But he doesn't look too bad. There's a few stuff there I can tell. The worst thing about doing all this is that I'm going to fix these guys all up, and I'm probably still not going to use them for a little while. Maybe I should. I'm in the game tomorrow. Maybe I should take these guys out. But I've been trying to really focus on a single army, so it'd be good if I did that. I was also kind of thinking about how that even probably applies to fantasy as well. You know, you have the guys that they have the one army and they play it over and over again. Let's take Matthew Reeson, where again, where the hell did he go? Where's his battle reports? But Matthew Reeson, very, very strong. A vampire count player, but he doesn't really play anything else. And it's probably because he just plays that one. That's why he's so good with it. As opposed to you have some other players where they'll jump from this army to this army to this army to this army, and so they never really get to that level where they've perfected their army and their tactics for using that army. Of course, I know other people as well where they just, like the guy that runs Warhammer, he always just jumps from army to army to army, but he lives Warhammer, so he has no problem doing that. SoCal Gaming says, what about Nagash? That's true. There was that rumor talking about Nagash, but it didn't really say anything about it. So it's one of these non-committal statements where who knows, is this going to be a little side campaign book, kind of like Blood in the Badlands? Is this actually going to be some sort of a real campaign finally? I mean, really, the big thing that we can say is that it's probably not going to be an army update, right? It's not going to be vampire counts. It's not going to be Tomb Kings, because they have current armies. They have the new hard book army. You know, I suppose it's possible that they could go back and maybe, I mean, there's always talk before about how they're going to take the two undead armies, vampire counts and Tomb Kings, and put them back together, and maybe they'd be doing that and adding Nagash that way, but I really don't see that. I mean, there's other soft cover books they could be doing. They could be doing Skaven. They could be doing the Bretonnians. They could be doing Ninth. And so really, out of all of those, unless they're really making a Ninth edition that's based on a campaign idea, which they've never ever done before, this must be just some sort of side campaign, and they could be really good. I mean, if you think back to some of the old campaigns that they used to run, where, oh, here's the mission for this week, do this, and then go on the GW website and put in your results so that it's going to change what the mission is for next time. You know, it would be fantastic if they decide to go back to that. That could really get the community going again, right? It's something where you're going to the club or you're talking to your buddies saying, hey, you know, you see the new campaign? Yeah. All of a sudden, Nagash is coming back. Yeah, we got to really make sure we beat up on those vampire count players. Or maybe for the vampire count players, they say like, oh, well, you know, Nagash is coming back. We have to really make sure we win this Watchtower scenario coming up here, because if we can hold back the enemy long enough, then all of a sudden it's going to give us a bonus for the next one or something like this. Here's another thing. Nagash, there is a model for him, but it's horrendous. It's the size of a Croxagore. He looks like a clown. And if you're going to do a campaign around Nagash, you probably would want to have him in it. And it'd be kind of interesting if they made a model for him. They did do that for some other ones. Say, I'm saying making a model for a campaign. So say like for Bellicor, that model was not because it was in a book, it's because it was part of the campaign, and then they made this model. They also did that with, was it Ulmar or whatever, or Ulrich? I don't know. It was the second type of guy to be using the actual, not the rune thing, the Karl Miraz. Geez, I should know these words better. It's the real hammer that's on the front of the books and everything. Of course, I don't have it here. Calmaraz, I want to say it's called. But anyway, they actually did used to make models just for campaigns. But they haven't done that in so long. I mean, first of all, not doing campaigns and then not making models for it. So, you know, that would be really interesting if that's what they are going to be doing, right? They're going to have a Nagash thing. They're going to be making a model for it. But we'll have to wait and see. So far I've been doing pretty good. If I just quickly... These are all the guys I've put back together so far. So, and I still have a whole another tray of them here to go through. Oh, here they are! Damn it. I actually sold my Tomb Kings and sent them away, and I was missing 2 Ushapti, and here they are. So, For you out there who got the Tomb Kings, I'm sorry. I mean, it was a hell of a good deal. That I sold. Oh, how many points in there? It was at least 2,800 points, I'd say, of Tomb Kings that I sold for just $200. And because there's a lot of work to it. Tomb Kings aren't all that competitive right now. Plus, it's for kind of a friend as well. So, yeah, no more Tomb Kings from me. Not that you've really seen me use them for a while, but looks like I still got two guys here. I should probably just give them to my son. My son was actually really pissed off because my Tomb Kings, for the most part, I usually just left out. My son would be playing with those because they're plastic, and I didn't really care about them too much. And when he heard that I sold my Tomb Kings, he was pissed off. So there you go. I have a little present I can give him. So, yeah, actually, most of the stuff in the bottom layer here is all metal. So I'm actually pretty much done. This guy I don't need to paint because he wasn't finished anyway. This one here is kind of wonky. It's a bone swarm, so it's supposed to be like this magical swarm of bones. It actually doesn't look too horrendous on this here, but what I usually did for this one for showing magic was yellow. So I basically painted the model yellow first, then dried brush white, and then did a black wash, assuming it would look really cool, right? It's got all these bones, but underneath there is the magic pulsing from within. It really does not work. The yellow in there just does not look right. You know, I didn't want it just to be white with a black wash. You know, we kind of want at least 3 colors on there, but this really didn't work out. Luckily for me, it's actually not that good of a model, so I don't even really use it that much, so I don't even really care. But we are now getting close to the end of the Paintisode. I'm going to be having another Google Hangout coming up here. Not one that's going to be live like this, but let me finish this first. But it's going to be one where we're going to be setting up for the next campaign here, so I'll have to be leaving soon to do that. So if you have any last-minute questions, put them up so that hopefully I can get to them first. But we have one here from Canvas01 saying Gal Moranz is the hammer, and Valtan, was the main guy of the old campaign. They had several different versions of him to represent the different stages of his life. And yeah, that was actually a really cool thing they did for him. They had the one where he's basically just like a farmer that has like the whole cool little hammer thing. I should say, right? Gal Moranz, and I'm probably saying this wrong as well. But they had that first, and then all of a sudden they had him mounted, and he looking all cool, like kind of like a warrior priest type thing. And then all of a sudden he had a really nice model that had this really nice steed, and you know, he's almost like a king now type thing, right? As he leads his cult of Ulrich or whatever. So that was a really good campaign. That was that. Well, okay, that was the Storm of Magic or whatever. That was really, really good because there's a really interesting campaign idea, and had all these models attached and had a really good story going all the way through. GW was really good that as you're going through the campaign, you know, you're putting your results, they're mattering, they're changing everything, and so you get to the end of the campaign and you're wondering how this is going to go, and this is this classic thing where Grimgor just comes in, headbutts the Warriors of Chaos guy, and just kind of like laughs and leaves, and that's the campaign. You know, nothing actually ends up changing. People were wondering for a while if there'd be FAQs that would be adding magic items to different armies or something to actually give like a long-lasting change based on what happened here, but it literally was just nothing. Nothing came of it, and then worse yet, when it came to the actual books after that, they bring back the timeline so as if it never happened. Then, I can rant on this for a while, and I've probably ranted on it lots of times before, but either way, that's going to be my Paintisode for today, unless a question pops up really quick. There is a delay, so sorry. If you do have a question on here, I'll try and get back, and I'll answer it anyway. But there you go. Some of the things I'd love to hear from you guys, of course, what were you working on? Were you also having to touch up models? What are you painting? What are you gluing together? And what do you think they're going to do with this whole Nagash thing? I mean, maybe it's not even a question. Maybe the spoiler's out there somewhere and I just haven't seen it yet. But what do you think is going to happen? So there you go. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later. Bye.